thank all you subscribers for subscribing, and the increased number of digital visitors to my shop does encourage me to take some time off from wood turning and make these videos. So I appreciate your watching. What I want to talk about today is rough turning a box blank from a piece of green wood. Why do we do that? Same way we rough turn a bowl blank. Wood needs to be dry to make a box for the lid to fit. Not so much when you first turn it, but later. I'm going to demonstrate how you rough turn a box blank. I have to readily admit, this is my way of doing it. It may not be, it's not the only way of rough turning or preparing a box blank. And it may not even be the best way. So if you got some comments, appreciate your posting them. A rule of thumb, I tend to try to let my rough turned box blanks dry 6 months, and if it's a dried piece of wood, I want it to dry at least a couple of weeks. I say 6 months, got some flexibility depending on the size of the box and the type of wood, 3 to 6 months. Now I'm blessed to have a air conditioning and heated shop, and as such the relative humidity is generally fairly low. Much lower than, say, the humidity outdoors in Georgia in the summertime. So they do dry fairly quickly. Now, one comment I would like to make, that when you're turning a box out of exotic wood where it's treated either on the ends with wax or a larger piece where maybe the entire the entire blank may be coated with wax, you need to treat that as green wood, because it was green when they covered it in wax. The wax slows down the ability for the wood to dry. So you're still, if you get this type of wood, you still need to rough it. It's not likely to be dry. There are actually two reasons why you want to rough turn. One is to ensure that when the wood dries and it goes round, goes out of shape, you can return it and maintain that shape so you'll have a good fitting lid tomorrow and next month and the month after that. The second reason is you can't always get kiln-dried woods from local woods or woods that you might want to make a box out of. An example of these exotic woods, or might even be a local species that's spalted. Now you say, but I want to turn a box right now. Well, go get some dried wood. That's one choice. The other is have fun and practice turning rough turning and setting them aside, and you'll be surprised by the time a little bit of time goes on, you'll have a selection to choose from, just as I do, as shown in this clip, that I have a choice to be able to pick up different types of species and shape boxes from my blanks that I've turned months ago, in some cases years ago. Okay, before we start turning this bowl blank round, I want to just briefly talk about drive centers and my preference. This is a step center. It's a knockoff. You can get this from Woodcraft or Penn State. They're fairly inexpensive, less than $23. It's got a spring point, but these are very good for spindle work. I like them. As an alternative, you could use one maybe that comes with your lathe that's got 2 prongs and hammer it in, but you may have to make a pretty good sized hole to hammer this in. This tends to be the one you get with a lot of lathes. This doesn't work well in grain like this, where you're really going to have to pound hard. My preference would be to grind off 2 of the prongs, sharpen, make sure the other 2 are sharp, and make do. But my best recommendation would be to buy you an inexpensive step center or a more expensive Sorby. You do get what you pay for, so the Sorby one that costs more than $60 is a better center than the one you get for $20, but depends on your value system. So let's go ahead and get ready to turn. Standard marking procedure, you've seen this before. Brace your finger like this on all 4 sides. Give yourself a smaller target in order that you can identify the center. Do that on all 4 sides, both ends. And then using a center punch, You can easily locate the center of that smaller square. Bring up the tailstock. We're going to speed this up a little bit shortly in the video editing process. Make sure you turn it round so it clears the tool rest. And then using the spindle roughing gouge. Running a little bit rough. Like we have a little crack we have to deal with. Okay, just to show you how things don't always go as planned, that crack I showed you turned out as very deep, so I went ahead and put a tenon on it, turned it smaller, and it's going into the box for angel ornaments. So I found another piece of Bradford pear. It's drier, it's not green, but we'll go through the same process. So we're going to pick up where we left off. It's round. Now at this point in time, we go ahead and put in a tenon on each end. Didn't want to show you this little tenon trick though, depending on what kind of live center you got and shape of your lathe, but go ahead and try this. If you can't lay a pencil on your live center, measure that circle and see how close it comes to your minimum on your standard jaws. For me, this works out real well. It comes out about 49 millimeter, and the minimum size I need on my, or I can allow on my Technitool Supernova 2 is 44 millimeters. So I mark that, and I'm going to bring it down to that line. And because my Supernova 2 had in compression mode, the manufacturer recommends parallel jaws. You want to make sure you, of course, get that nice clean shoulder. I've already put a tenon on the other side, so we're going to put on the chuck, remove our drive center. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and chuck it up, and then we're going to remove that damage on each side from the live and drive center. The reason we do that is it makes it thinner, and it also, in case we wind up incorporating all the wood in our design, we don't have to worry about removing any damage at the last minute. We know how much we have to play with. So we're going to put that in. First we're going to look at the wood before we do, because we're going to end up with the top inside the chuck. I think I'm going to use that as the bottom, so that's going to be the top because of that little knot. Remove the drive center. And using the 3/8 inch spindle gouge, I'm going to just gently concave down through there to remove that, setting the tool rest where it's just at, puts the cutting edge right at center. So the tool rest is maybe a little over 1/4 inch lower. So we're going to pick it up here. Okay, what I want to talk about now is, at this point in time, you've got to decide what kind of box you're going to be making months from now. So you either want a standard size or you have some concept in mind. So as a general rule, you got to decide whether you want, what kind of ratio you want. Is it 1:3? Is it 2/5? 3/5 or 40-60%. What I like to use is roughly 1:3. I use the golden mean unless I have some other reason. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to mark it off like this, leaving extra room for the tenon and for the 1/4 inch parting. So this is going to be the top. So let's go ahead and part that off. Now, because the grain pattern in this is not real prominent, I'm not going to be real concerned about losing a grain match. But on some wood, you may have a very prominent grain or a light and dark, in which case you might want to consider using a very thin parting tool, or you might even consider cutting it on a bandsaw. But if you do, make sure you use some type of V-jig so you can safely hold it to make that cut. Broaden the opening. I can part it till it flies off, but it's safer to just twist it off like that. Now what I want to do is mark the center, make it slightly concave. Then I have a place to put my spindle gouge to actually open it up. Now, I want to show you right now, we're using a spindle gouge with a very blunt edge. I don't know if you can pick that up. I'll see if I can't enlarge that on the screen. But that makes it a lot easier, as you'll see, for picking up that cut. So for other cuts it doesn't work as well, so I'm going to start off using a different gouge just to make a little bit of a hole. Alright, tailstock out of the way, tool out of the way. Now, there's different ways to hollow. Jimmy Clues comes from the outside in, but most professional turners agree you generally start from the inside and sweep out, and that's the way I'm going to do it. And the very blunt grind we have on here, typically you'd have 35 to 40 degrees on a spindle gouge, but for this, having that larger bevel makes it easier to do that sweep. Now, as you can see from that diagram, we're going to show, or that we've already showed. We're going to make this box. I'm going to rough it to somewhere here, maybe a little bit more, maybe there. So that's where we're going to rough to. Raise this up just a little bit. So we just make a sweeping cut. We engage and just open it, keep it open somewhere toward maybe 8 o'clock and just pivot it. Okay, we remove that. And basically we're done. But I'm going to go ahead and, let's see, we've already got that kind of, we're done. Move the top. Set it aside, put in the bottom. Gently concave this before we go further. So now we have a little starter hole, now that we've got it concave. Now, some people like to drill these out. You could use a big Forstner bit. I just find that very slow. It's hard to use a big Forstner bit and ingrain, and frankly, it's not fast. You'll see, this is a very fast operation. So the first thing I want to do is drill a starter hole using that little drill and a handle, 1/4 inch. I'm going to measure how deep. I've got a couple of marks here. I don't want to go. I want to go to that mark right there. So that's the one we're going to do. Get speed to about 1,000. We're just going to get it going. In we go. I'm going to have to stop and clear it a couple of times. We got it where we want it. Now, using that spindle gouge grind I showed you, we're going to put the tool right here. I want to reposition the camera so you get a little better view. Firmly anchored on the tool rest. Not unusual to get a little chatter with a 3/8 inch spindle gouge on these boxes. Still got a little bit of a hole there. Here, get close on center. Hold it carefully. Now, if that's too much, I'll turn it to bigger. Here's something. I'll just have to sharper. I'll grind to it at 45. We'll try that. We're going to call that good. There's one more hollowing technique I want to mention to you. It's one Richard Raffin used when he did thousands and thousands of production little goblets. It's called back hollowing, and it's rather different. And in some instances, it removes work very fast, but it can be pretty terrifying. And it takes some practice with you snatching a bunch of blocks out of the chuck. I'm not going to go very far with it, but I just want to demonstrate it. But basically, we're going to come in like this, and then come back over and sharpen this way, and then you can come back around. And I was fortunate enough to watch Richard Raffin in a demo a few years ago, and he actually was able to show me how to do it and put his hands on mine and guide me. So that was kind of a unique experience. So let's give that a try. I'm at about 1200, so we're going to come in, anchor the bevel, I think this you can see there's a lot of heat generated. I think in this case this grind is a little too blunt. Let's try it with a more standard size 3/8 inch with some longer wings, so it's going to get a little more aggressive. Now, in many instances, you actually support the tool not on the tool rest, but on the actual wall of the hole, because you don't open it up all the way. You open it up at the very end. I'm about to lose this piece on the chuck. It's hot. Then when you finish, you actually come back and widen up the box, and you tend to have a little spike in the middle. You clean that up as you do the walls with a scraper, but it removes wood very fast. I've practiced it several times. I don't think it's a technique that works for me. Okay. At this point in time, all we do is mark what kind of wood and the date, today's date of what's today, the 15th, 15, and Bradford pear. I'd mark that on both pieces in case they get separated. Take a little tape, because we got those sides concave, we can tape it, and they'll match together fairly well. The tape's just to keep those pieces from getting separated. Depending on the quality of tape, it may not hold up too long. The key is you have the opening to the outside to dry. So, we've covered why we rough turn a box, so it'll maintain its shape, so the lid will fit, and also because we can't always get the kiln dried wood that we like, whether it's an exotic or even certain local species, or maybe specially figured or spalted wood. keep those comments coming. I hope I inspired you to rough turn some box blanks. Looking forward to your comments.